some, no good some.
Let's go.
White some, you nasty some. You take my woman, oh some.
Oh, some, oh, some.
You take my woman, ugly some.
Oh, some, oh, some.
You got to do better, oh some.
Oh, some, oh, some.
You take my woman, oh some.
Oh, some, oh,
See,
some.
you had this girl in Beverly. Some you took my woman for me.
Let's go.
You take my baby on the floor. I never saw Beverly no more. You got to do better, oh Sam.
Oh, some, oh, some.
You got to do better, don't get Sam.
Oh, some, oh,
You
some.
take my woman, don't get Sam.
Oh, some, oh,
You
some.
take my woman, oh Sam. What we do, what we do?
Oh, some, oh, some.
Oh Sam, no good Sam.
White some, white some.
White Sam, no good Sam.
The throne delivered today. We've got the highlights. This as drama unfolds with the COI outside of today's proceedings. We'll tell you why. And later, a new leader of government business is appointed. Eyewitness News starts now. Eyewitness News is brought to you by the new BTC. Fiber is here. Faster, stronger, more reliable. Together, we're unstoppable. Switch today. Good evening, everyone. I'm Janae Nawal. Thanks so much for joining us. Topping news tonight, the 2023 Parliament session opening today with the promise of transformative change, the focus, economic recovery, social development, and environmental stability. Key issues such as job creation, healthcare reform, and climate resilience all expected to be the cornerstone of the new legislation aimed at addressing the pressing needs of our citizens. Our Jose Etienne has the details in our top story tonight.
Government presenting an aggressive legislative agenda for the historic opening of Parliament today. It was historic in nature, as it was the first speech from the throne from the newly sworn-in Governor-General Cynthia Mother Pratt on behalf of Prime Minister Philip Davis. She was summoned from Government House following sessions in the upper chamber of the Senate and lower chamber of the House of Assembly. This as pomp and pageantry prevailed on the outdoors. A massive tent stretching from bust to bust in Parliament and Rawson Square served as today's venue with more than 2,000 guests in attendance. Her Excellency, following an inspection of the uniformed branches, delivered the highly anticipated speech from the throne. The new roadmap policy for government focused on a number of critical areas with an underlying theme of preservation and stability of life for all.
My government will continue to intensify its focus on strengthening personal security, economic security, and national security.
Topping the agenda, more jobs for Bahamians was promised as the country's economy continues to expand.
A new unit will be formed to review notice of vacancy processes to ensure that Bahamians have a fair opportunity to apply for all available jobs that are created.
A recent cabinet shuffle made room for more government ministries to be created. And now that the country has a newly appointed energy minister, there are lots of plans on the horizon for energy reform.
My government will therefore introduce the following legislation. A new renewable energy bill that will provide a legislative and regulatory framework for the expansion of renewable energy generation. A new liquid natural gas bill that will provide a legislative and regulatory framework for development of LNG generation.
Authorities also looking to get a hold of crime in country as officials remain up in arms with repeat offenders committing dangerous crimes.
Anti-gang legislation will be brought to Parliament that will provide for stiffer penalties and prison terms for numbers of and acts of criminal institutions and organizations.
What about the cannabis bill? Talks have been on the grounds about bringing this bill to the lower chamber. Could the public expect forward movement from government on this piece of legislation during the second Parliament session?
New opportunities will be created by legislation regulating cannabis and hemp. Several rounds of public consultation have already been completed.
Government's speech also containing plans for infrastructural upgrades in the health sector that are already underway.
My government will build a new specialty hospital in New Providence and will complete the construction of the new hospital in Grand Bahama. My government prioritizes public health, mental health and wellness initiatives, and is moving aggressively to implement the second phase of national health insurance.
Government also looking to prioritize Social Security as part of its plan.
We will provide free access to the internet in low-income communities. This will help to ensure that every student in school can access the internet, so that no child is left behind because of their economic or social circumstances.
In this upcoming parliamentary session, government clearly has a lot on the table as it relates to what they want to do to improve the lives of Bahamians. And so with Parliament reopening today, only time will tell if government gets to tick those boxes before the end of its term. Jose Etienne, Eyewitness News.
Thanks, Jose. Well, the opening of Parliament did not occur without incident. Members of the Coalition of Independents lining the streets to protest on a number of national issues. Our Tyler Simonet was in the thick of that protest today. She has the details in this report.
Tempers flaring at Parliament Square this morning as dozens of Coalition of Independents members and supporters call for the resignation of Minister of Housing and Urban Renewal, Keith Bell. The calls come due to the numbers of controversies enveloping Bell under his previous post as Minister of Immigration.
We had filed for a commission of inquiry, and that commission of inquiry is not gone on yet. In fact, we believe they changed Governor General to make sure that that can't happen. But the fact of the matter is, we have filed for a commission of inquiry into the actions of Keith Bell, and nothing has happened and nothing has changed. We think it is a crying shame in a democracy when a commission of inquiry cannot go on in a country where evidence have been brought forward by people in a ministry, by leaders in a ministry, by the director and others, and a commission of inquiry cannot happen. But instead, they transfer the minister to another area that is a lucrative cash cow area. We are disappointed in this government allowing Keith Bell to remain in our House of Assembly.
But that was only one of the many issues that leader of the COI, Lincoln Bain, and his supporters were protesting. Bain also expresses their views on the University of the Bahamas' decision to host a Pride Week forum on campus starting today.
We also come here today to stand up for Bahamians, Bahamians who are not LGBT. On this date, the 4th, they are starting what they call Pride Month. Well, I have pride in being a straight Bahamian who is not gay. And we should be allowed to have some pride too. And I call on us to not be ashamed to be who we are.
As the number of protesters grew, police officials began to barricade COI supporters from the street and allegedly told them they could not hold up signs without the permit.
Tell me the law that we're going to be peaceful. But don't come and tell me things that is not in the law. You have to say it's in the law. If you need a permit, to demonstrate, tell me which law says that. But if you find a law right now, you all just got rid of a problem. Lincoln Bain wouldn't run in the next election. Find a law.
It was a stark contrasting image as the Governor General, Cynthia Mother Pratt, arrived minutes ahead of the speech from the throne. Protesters continued to boo and chant, "Brave gotta go." Eventually, the protesters were pushed further down Bay Street, away from the tent hosting the opening of Parliament.
They feel that we are disturbing the police parade that was going on. The police parade is now done, so I don't know what their issue is. But we are just protesting over senior officers who were hurt. This is a violation, but we decided that even though we have the rights, we will comply. So people can see that we are compliant. We're not here to cause any trouble. We're here to make a statement.
Tyler Simonet, Eyewitness News.
Well, from the leader of the opposition, Leader Michael Pintard, voicing concern following government revealing its new legislative agenda, Leah Cooper has their reaction in this report tonight.
What is worrisome about today is that we sat through 60 minutes of recycled ideas and initiatives by the Davis-led administration.
Pintard adds that at least 60 of the 87 promises made in the last speech from the throne were not accomplished.
They added on top of the unrealized goals an additional 63 commitments, some of which, again, were old commitments. We are not confident that this administration, best known for flossing, for flamming, for living large, we are not convinced that they are even committed to those initiatives that on the surface sounds good, based on their track record.
That said, the government failed to address a few key issues he says the opposition was expecting to be addressed in this speech from the throne, namely crime and immigration.
We expect that while the speech from the throne concentrates on legislative issues, it also signals the spirit of an administration and what policy positions they would take and what outcomes they hope to achieve. Those outcomes should be attached to several things. One, how are we going to reduce crime? Two, how are we going to deal with the issue of immigration, not just border protection, but the entire issue of sorting through the many permits that are out there, some granted illegally, the citizenships that have been granted, some illegally. We expected their conversation to address these kinds of issues.
He's also concerned that issues in Grand Bahama were left out.
On the eve of an election that this administration is going to be engaged in very shortly, there was no discussion about a failed airport development, which they have stopped. This administration, despite indicating that it had $400 million in a loan facility, have stopped communicating both with the Bahamian consortium that won the bid, as well as the international partners that are also a part of the arrangement. No discussion about the failed hotel sale and their abysmal performance in Dorian relief. Our worst year while in office and addressing the Dorian concerns is better than their best year. They're not paying the contractors since June of this year who engage in small home repairs. But on the eve of the election, They are running all through West Grand Bahama asking who need to have a house fix.
And then there's talk surrounding amendments to the Protection Against Violence bill and the criminalization of marital rape.
Government failed to consult on the front end with the very organizations that have for decades addressed the issues of violence against girls and women, and then sought to dismiss them during the debate. When we raised the issue, can you just pause, if only for a couple of days, discuss with the stakeholders the concern, and just return to the House to deal with it? They would dismiss. The persons who they call their partners, they dismiss them.
Now, for the government's part, the speech from the throne highlighted a number of concerns for Bahamians. The government intends to address providing more jobs for Bahamians, healthcare upgrades, family island development, and a cannabis bill, among others. Leah Cooper, Eyewitness News.
Well, the appointment of a new leader of government business also made today. That position left vacant following the death of Cabinet Minister Obi Wilshcombe last week. Freetown Member of Parliament and National Security Minister Wayne Monroe now assumes this role. One of his first orders of business was passing this resolution.
Whereas it was appointed by proclamation dated the 12th day of August 2023, that the Parliament of the Bahamas be prorogued and that the next sitting of Parliament be held in the city of Nassau and shall commence in the forenoon of Wednesday, the 4th day of October 2023. And whereas it was appointed by the said proclamation that this Honourable House should meet on the 4th day of October 2023, and whereas it is the custom and tradition of this House to inquire and to know of His Majesty's representative, Her Excellency the Governor-General, when she will be pleased to receive this Honourable House with its Speaker, and whereas it is conducive to good and democratic governance, that the business of this House, whenever and wherever possible, be open to and conducted in the presence of as many citizens of the Commonwealth of the Bahamas as practicable.
Well, while the opening of Parliament is to open a new parliamentary session and set the tone for the legislative agenda of the government, it has also become a fashion show of sorts, with many putting on their best shoe, hat, or ruffle forward. Our Tyler Simonat has more in this report.
Greens, pinks, purples, and all shades of blue, the best in Bahamian fashion on full display for today's opening of Parliament. From the spouse of the Prime Minister, cabinet ministers, their wives, and sitting MPs, no detail was spared as the more than 200 guests were dressed to the nines. They donned impressive gowns, headpieces, bags, and gloves for the special occasion.
Today, I dress in this aqua and gold because it represents the Bahamas, and it's near the Bahamian colors. So I'm enjoying myself, and I'm happy that we as ladies could be out here just to show off for a few hours and enjoy not working, and to be here and enjoy the speech from the throne.
The PLP is the governing party, and these are our colors, the yellow and blue, and what I did was try and contrast them, the yellow and the gold, and that's my outfit for today.
Well, my outfit was made by Avis Monroe, and she's one of our local designers in the country. And my bag was made actually by a teacher, Keisha Miller.
While the attire was the talk of the morning, many attendees also expressing their joy at women empowerment being able to witness the Governor-General, Cynthia Mother Pratt, speech from the throne.
I'm out here today to really support Mother Pratt. I'm a product of Coconut Grove, yes. I know true Mother Pratt, we live through the same corner. And I am so happy and so proud to know that something good has come out of the Grove. And that's why I'm here today, to support that great woman, our Governor General today.
Our focus has been on women, uplifting women and showcasing them. And even if you look at the work that our 6 parliamentarian women are doing, they are phenomenal. And it's very good that it inspires more women that they can elevate to where they are.
Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson also added her support for Pratt, who she says directly impacted her life.
To hear Cynthia Mother Pratt, Her Excellency, who is a person who has contributed to my life. So I played softball with her from I was 12 years old. I received my full softball scholarship from her to go to St. Augustine's College, Raleigh, North Carolina. So it's personal to me today, and I'm glad that I'm here to support her.
The Governor General's sister-in-law, Patricia Moxie, also speaking on the occasion and the family's support for Pratt on this historic moment.
Oh man, look here, the feeling is indescribable. I started to cry, my heart got full. Her husband Joe is in here, my brother Edmondo Moxie. Her brother is not here, and he would have been like a peacock. They both would have been like a peacock. But we all are proud. The whole family is proud of her. Her brother is here, Charles Moxie. Her daughter is here, Nikki. We all are here, and we love her. And we just say to God be the glory. We continue to pray for her, that God would keep her strong.
Tyler Simonet, Eyewitness News.
Meantime, the House of Assembly Speaker Patricia DeVoe challenging parliamentarians to take a more bipartisan approach in this new session. She made the charge to colleagues this morning during the opening.
And the progress of our nation. In the spirit of unity and cooperation, let us approach this new session with a renewed sense of purpose. Our citizens look to us for leadership, for policies that improve their lives, and for a vision for a brighter future. It is incumbent upon us to rise above partisan divides and work collaboratively.
While with a number of critical bills set to be debated in the coming weeks, DeVoe also asking parliamentarians to remain open-minded, adding that they must never forget their duty to country.
Let us not forget our duty to uphold the principles of justice and the rule of law. We all can attest firsthand to the power of the law to bring about positive change. Let us remain vigilant in our oversight, ensuring that our laws and policies reflect the needs and values of our citizens.
Well, the Speaker also taking a moment to pay tribute to the late Obie Wilshcombe during the start of the morning session, telling parliamentarians that his death leaves a void that can't be replaced, adding that he was not only a valuable member of government, but also a close friend.
Today, as I ascended this Speaker's chair, it was one of the toughest walks I've ever had thus far in this Parliament. No longer can I look to my immediate right and see the familiar face that always gave me his signature smiles, the presence of his calm spirit, and of course, that assuring nod that signals to me that everything was going to be okay. His legacy will live in history, remaining a symbolic icon for liberation and progression. As we mourn his loss, let us also celebrate the incredible person he was and the legacy he leaves behind.
Well, last night, staunch PLP supporters, sitting ministers, former politicians, friends, and family all gathered at the PLP headquarters on Farrington Road to pay tribute to the late Social Services Minister, Obie Wilshcombe. It was a night of mixed emotions as tributes were made and fond memories were shared. In particular, Wilshcombe's lifelong friend, Minister of Education, Glenys Hannah Martin, called him an amazing and extraordinary Bahamian patriot.
Obie was a true and faithful member of this party and a consummate team player. He never lost faith, no matter the odds, no matter the pressures, win, lose, or draw. Whether the sun shone brightly or there was torrential rain, he never wavered in his belief in the meaning of this organization.
We say now that he's passed away. We must say, first of all, thank you. Thank you to him for a life well lived and for the contribution which he made to our country and to the Progressive Liberal Party.
Wilshcombe, my colleague, my brother, my buddy, may you rest in peace and rise in glory.
Prime Minister Philip Davis also referring to Wilshcombe as much more than a colleague, but also a lifetime friend, a beacon of dedication and patriotism.
When we were talking about his appointment, and he said, "Ray, do you think I could do it?" I says, "No, look, you are PLP. social service is the bedrock of the PLP. And about 4 weeks later, he came and said, "You've given me new life." He wasn't just talking politics. He was laying out a roadmap of compassion, duty, and responsibility. For Obi, it wasn't just about politics. It was about heart. His words weren't mere suggestions. They were a clarion call, a call to stand taller, to work harder, to care deeper. Today, the weight of his absence is palpable, but in the echoing silence, there's also a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the time he shared, for the lessons he taught, and for the legacy he leaves behind.
Well, the Davis administration intends to introduce a funeral industry services bill to establish a regulatory framework for the sector. This coming from Governor General Cynthia Pratt this morning in her speech from the throne. But President of the Bahamas Funeral Directors Association, Kirsch Ferguson, says it's welcome news, but he says they've heard it all before.
We've been given promises over the past 5+ years on the forward movement of the regulations being put in place for the industry. What we are now faced with is the fact that we are a touristic nation, and a lot of our work is being done where we have to ship bodies worldwide. And in the absence of regulations, we are continuously being bombarded by our partners in the U.S., in the UK, and the like, on the procedural operations of sending bodies throughout the world.
Well, he adds that there needs to be stricter laws in place when it comes to handing out licenses within the industry.
Well, in the first instance, families are being approached by persons who are not certified to render professional services. They've been given a license by the Bahamas government to open a funeral home. They don't have a physical presence or facility to house bodies. And second to that, they're not following simple guidelines that are in place to ensure that whatever is to be done on behalf of the bereaved is done in a proper and humane manner.
Well, that said, the co-owner of Butler's Funeral Home and Crematorium, Loretta Butler Turner, urging government tonight to address these concerns.
I think there are many places now that have just put up shingles that do not understand the guidelines and regulatory framework of the dignity of death. And you would have seen over the past year several incidents of unethical behavior within the industry. So the government must get a handle on this and bring dignity and ethics back to the business of caring for our loved ones.
Well, if you've got a news tip or if you've seen news in the making, call the Ion News hotline 397-6397. We also invite you to send your letters to the editor for publication on all of our social media platforms, Eyewitness News Bahamas @gmail.com. And if you're watching on our Facebook or YouTube page, share your thoughts about today's stories in the comments section. We want to hear from you. We are just getting started in Eyewitness News tonight, but when we come back, the cost of electricity frustrating businesses. We've got that story coming up. And later, an independent candidate throwing her hat in the ring for the upcoming by-election. More on that right after this break.
segment is brought to you by Island Luck Sportsbook. It means more when you got skin in the game.
Welcome back. Here's a look at your Eyewitness News gas tracker. $6.14 your national average for a gallon of gas. You'll be getting the cheapest tonight at Shell, $6.11. Esso coming in at $6.15, and Bruvis the highest tonight, $6.17. In news from the courts tonight, an Office of the Prime Minister employee was sentenced to 4.5 years in prison yesterday after admitting to having 8 firearms and over 900 rounds of ammunition. The acting chief magistrate, Roberta Reckley, arraigned Carlson Pinder, age 35, Kadario Lewis, 33, and a 13-year-old boy on 19 firearm charges. These included 5 counts of possession of ammunition, 7 counts of possession of ammunition with intent to supply, 6 counts of possession of a part of a firearm, and a single count of possession of a firearm with intent to supply. Magistrate Samuel McKinney charged Pinder with an additional count of possession of dangerous drugs with the intent to supply. Now, police reportedly searched Pinder's apartment on Bradley Street around 11 p.m. on September 28th, seizing 8 firearms, including 4 9mm pistols, a pistol, a revolver, a .27 caliber pistol, and a 10mm Glock. Authorities also confiscating some 979 rounds of ammunition. 6 firearm magazines were also seized in the search. Pinder pleaded guilty to all 20 charges against him. His co-accused have pleaded not guilty. Well, late this afternoon, police issuing an all-points bulletin for 29-year-old Daniel Piela of Sugar Apple Street. According to police, he was last seen on Monday, October 2nd at his residence. He's being described as light brown complexion with slim build. Police are asking anyone with information on his whereabouts to call CID at 502-9975 or 502-9991 or 2. Well, the cost of living continues to rise as more business owners are being overwhelmed by electricity costs in the country. The proprietor of Tropical Gyros, he's speaking out on the challenges of running a business today as he anticipates a slight increase in prices. Our Chloe Stewart has the details in this report.
You know, I tried to ride it out over the summer, but it became, after this month, it became, evident that I was left with no choice but to now recost and factor in the BPL, the extra BPL, and the additional pricing for my inventory items.
Tropical Gyro, the latest business to feel the pressure of increasing electricity rates by Bahamas Power and Light Company. Owner Kevin Culmer expressing his frustration as he says the climbing cost has forced him to put this burden on his customers by increasing menu prices, the change expected to take place next week. He informed consumers via social media of the move and added that high power costs are just the tip of the iceberg, but are the most challenging.
BPL is accounting for my 3rd highest line item right now in my business, and I'm sure that other businesses are going through the same. You know, we can absorb 1 month or 2 months of losses, but after that, then it comes to a point where, okay, we have to make a decision.
His comments coming on the heel of Bahamas Chamber of Commerce Chairman Crystal Rutherford Ferguson, who in a statement this week said that the business community was frustrated over how commerce is conducted in the Bahamas, which she says has been exacerbated by high electricity costs and frequent power outages. Shadow Finance Minister for the Free National Movement, Kwesi Thompson, echoing similar sentiments, calling on government to enact policies to improve the business climate in the country. IRCA was also said to be monitoring power costs nationwide and reported that after discussions with BPL, it was expected that power costs would decrease for consumers by this month.
The majority of BPL's consumers use under 800 kilowatt hours. However, particularly businesses are the ones who are using over 800 kilowatt hours per month. So they're going to see their fuel charge go down.
For Culmer, he says he's trying to prevent the negative impact of inflation, noting that the company does not wish to terminate any employees due to the increase in operating costs.
We also know that if it's tough for us as business owners, it's definitely tough for our employees. And so we take good pride in keeping everybody on as long as we can.
As we all know, officials stated a while back that the national insurance rate will further increase beginning July 1st, 2024. Here's what Chef Culmer has to say on that concern.
Right now we pay 0.59%, and that's tough because, you know, when you hire people, you have to factor that in their pay. So far, you know, we're weathering the storm, and we will see how it plays out next year. But I'm hoping that we're not going to have to make any more increases.
Despite the ongoing challenges business owners face, Chef Culmer remains hopeful for a better outcome in the future. Chloe Stewart, Eyewitness News.
Thanks, Chloe. Well, following the pomp and pageantry of the opening of Parliament, members of the opposition headed to the St. Barnabas constituency to offer some free meals to 200 residents.
We have been consistent in saying that this government does not know how to tighten its belt. They will look for any opportunity to have a cocktail party, then a reception, and then afterwards they'll have an after party. And so we did not want today to be there eating. We came over the hill. And so we're here today, and we're going to distribute food to those who come, and we'll eat and talk with residents, persons in the neighboring businesses, etc.
Burrows announcing today that she'll be throwing her hat in the ring for the upcoming by-election set to be held in the West End Grand Bahama and Bimini Post. She previously announced an independent bid for the Elizabeth constituency in the next general elections. Now, this will be the first by-elections being held since 2012. It's triggered by the death of the former Minister of Social Services, Obi Wilchcombe. Burrows says she is determined to land that seat.
Thrust in terms of priority, and I believe that the Bahamas can be a nation that becomes a beacon for the world to emulate when it comes to ensuring the protection of our most vulnerable citizens, marginalized groups. And I guess the big question is, I don't like to talk long, I'm going to be running in the by-election for the West End and Bimini seat. And this is going to be different because I know y'all used to the by-election. This is going to be a bye-bye election, and then also a...
Well, the Parliament building, situated at the heart of the capital, houses both the lower and upper chambers. It was originally constructed in 1815. However, David Forbes, the clerk of the Parliament, believes that we have outgrown the current facilities. He shares more on that.
What we have is that our parliamentary complex we have long outgrown it. And so, you know, the government has spoken to their desire and their determination to build a new parliamentary complex. And so that should be able to accommodate that amount of people. And that will help greatly with the logistics of an opening of Parliament. If you build your parliamentary complex correctly, you will have absolutely no problem with any of these things, because everything would be contained. And like I said, they do this in England once every year. And there is no difficulty with traffic or anything like that, because it's well laid out, well thought out. Right now we're going to have to be busing some people to the opening, and you know, whereas that can work, but that is not the most convenient way to do it.
Bahamas Defense Force recently speaking out on an influx of migrants from Ecuador and China who they say illegally entered the northern Bahamas. Commodore Raymond King of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force speaking to the alarming action of migrants who he says risk their lives in search of a better way of life.
Those smugglers are seafarers as well, and they are aware when the peak of the hurricane season occurs. It would have occurred September 10th, but during this period, you still have the hurricane really affecting any chances of persons being able to successfully and safely migrate illegally.
Well, the Royal Bahamas Defense Force continues to work closely with government officials and the Bahamas Immigration Department to create a framework for peacekeeping operations.
It isn't a period or sense that we would relax our posture. We remain poised, but we know when we have to give greater focus and we have to actually conduct anti-migrant operations during those periods.
Well, still to come in Eyewitness News tonight, the Stoli DJ Competition making a comeback. We'll tell you all about it, but first, Here's a chat on tonight's weather forecast.
This is brought to you by J.S. Johnson, Insurance Agents and Brokers, giving you peace of mind.
Live look tonight over Pinewood Gardens. The temperature right around 82 degrees. It's expected to dip to 78 tonight. This is Eyewitness News. Welcome back. Well, the Stoli DJ Competition is back. It's in its 10th cycle. The competition, hosted by Commonwealth Brewery, is expected to showcase some of the best rising DJ stars in the country. And we've been following this competition since its inception. Our Theo Seeley, no stranger to how the event pans out. Tonight he chats with the event's organizers and a few of the competitors in this year's competition. Here's that report.
The Stoli DJ Competition is back. It's a platform for rising DJ talents to flex their skills with an opportunity to win big prizes.
And this is an opportunity for DJs to showcase their talent and just find a new opportunity. So we really look for the new and upcoming DJs and everyone who is just trying to find an opportunity and they just want to get out there.
Well, if that's you, organizers say this competition is for you, but you'll have to wait until next year to enter, as this year's top cut has already been made. But what they'd like for the public to do is to follow this year's top cut as they battle to be the grand champion of the 10th annual Stoli DJ Competition.
To follow along with the competition, you can follow 103.5 The Beat Facebook page. You can also listen in to 103.5. Most of our announcements and all of the details of the competition will be announced along that platform.
So here's the lineup for the event.
During the next 3 weeks, we'll be having round 1, which takes place October 5th, 6th, and 7th. So on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturday nights, 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. on 103.5 The Beat, we'll be playing the entries from the DJs. So you can go onto that Facebook page and vote. We have Facebook voting poll, so you can vote on 103.5 The Beat.
We had a chance to chat with 3 of the top 10 competitors, DJ Saris, DJ Prodigy, and DJ Amp, and here's why they joined the big competition.
I think it's more of like a learning lesson towards you should never put your dreams down. You should never stop putting yourself out there, because also it's always a way to network yourself and always try to be able to see whoever can reach out towards you. You may never know who's watching, so you should always put your best foot forward.
This is actually my second or third time joining the competition, and I joined it again because I'm a person I don't like to give up. I always keep trying and trying, so that's the reason why I joined again, and I feel as though it's another opportunity for me, you know. I've got better over the period of time. Yeah, I've improved in my skills.
I know it's an opportunity to showcase my skills, and I like competition. I'm a very competitive person. So I don't mind going against people who also feel like they're the best DJ right now. So I want to go ahead and prove myself along other people. My end goal in the competition, obviously, I would like to win, but I just want to show my skills, get my name out there.
Now the DJs will battle it out on 103.5 The Beat for online votes, and then there will be a grand finale in 2 weeks.
If you would like to win some free tickets to the event, which will be Friday, October 20th, you can follow along with 103.5 The Beat, and we'll be doing different trivias. If you can listen on to 103.5 The Beat, and you'll have opportunities to win 10 tickets with +1 to the event.
Theo Seeley, Eyewitness News.
Thanks, Theo, and be sure to log on and vote. Up next, Laurencia's next adventure might be in the DJ booth, but tonight she's up next with sports. Good evening, Laurencia.
Good evening, Janaea. Tonight we're speaking with the sports minister about funding for federations. I'll tell you more about that interview right after the short break.
This segment of the news is brought to you by Hennessy, the spirit of sports in the Bahamas.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Eyewitness Sports. I'm Laurencia Smith. Thanks for joining us. Topping sports tonight, more often than not, we report on various sporting federations seeking funding from corporate Bahamas to fund competition, travel, and training. And many times, the organization complained that the funding from government should be increased. We got a breakdown from Sports Minister Mario Bolag on how that process works.
Well, all federations are classified either A, B, or C sporting discipline based on the sports policy. We are in process of updating that sports policy. It has not been updated since 2011. And presently, as it is in the present state, it tells you how much money should go to each various federation based on their classification. I use baseball as an example. They are no longer a B-classified sport. They should be an A-classified sport because it's an Olympic sport. And so until we change the policy that would allow them to receive the necessary fundings equal on par with like track and field and basketball and those, then they will remain receiving less. That's just an example.
Bullock says he encourages federations to continue to seek funding from corporate Bahamas.
The government is there to provide the necessary funding for development of their sports, but they have to be able to go there and be able to, attract corporate sponsorship to be able to get the necessary funding they need for all of the events they intend to travel. It's not the duty of the government of the Bahamas to fund 100% all of these events or any federation. It's our job to assist them as much as we can, because it's like having 10, 15 children. You can't give all to one. So you have to take care of all equally and have them to be able to also find them, hold their own responsibility.
Meantime, over to the baseball diamond. The Jazz Chisholm Little League Foundation kicked off recently at the Blue Hill Sporting Complex. The league's Commissioner Jerron Zan says the league has been the dream of the Bahamian professional baseball player for some time now.
To get this started, it's been in the making for some months now, a couple of years now actually, but to see it actually happen it's really amazing. I know Jazz is really excited about it. He sent me from Texas, he spoke a little earlier. He's extremely excited. He wish he was here.
On hand for the opener was Jazz dad Jerazo Chisholm Sr.
If he was here, he would appreciate all the people and all of the kids coming out, looking up to him, because that's a major thing that he wants. He wants the little kids to know that they have a future in baseball.
The Little League division is made up of the T-ball ages 5 to 6, coaches pitch 7 to 8, and under 12 and under 14, with 4 teams in each division. The league is expected to end on December 3rd. Kyson Dossard, who is a part of the under 14 division, a member of the Jazz Blue team, shared with us what his big dreams are for this season.
I'm looking for my team to make it to the championship, and hopefully we get the prize to go away to the States, because I know the winner of this league is to play on the travel ball team. And hopefully we get to play in the stadium in the championship.
Finally, in sports, it's media week throughout the NBA, and sharpshooter Buddy Hield breaks his silence on trade rumors during the media tour. The guard is entering the final year of his contract and will make roughly $19.3 million. Now, he was traded to the Pacers back in 2022 from the Sacramento Kings. And despite all of that trade rumors, Hield says that he's ready for the upcoming season.
Basketball is fun. I approach it as every training camp, especially like I did last year. I come in focused, ready, and just get to work, and excited to work with these guys. A fun group of guys, a lot of competition, it was fun. And with a great coaching staff, and great team, and ready, willing to work, and teammates that love each other. So I'm excited, and can't wait.
The 30-year-old shared why he changed his jersey number from 24 to 27. Now, Hield has been rocking 24 for most of his career.
My mom has 7 kids. I know you guys are going to ask about that, so I even totally forgot about Jamino deal. If I didn't know it earlier, I wouldn't pick it, but my mom has been begging to get number 7 because of representing the family, and that's her favorite number, so I had to do it. And I would give it a rest. I did because my country area code 2.2 and Kobe, and Kobe's meant a lot to the league, and I felt like time I should give it a rest and just take my own path and pursue my own dreams from 7.
That's what's making sports at this hour. I'm Laurencia Smith. Stay with us. We'll have more news for you on the other side of the break.
Eyewitness News.
Well, that wraps up news at this hour, but coming up in Beyond the Headlines with Shanique Miller, she's talking with the Director of Communications at the Office of the Prime Minister, Latre Ramming, on the speech from the throne tonight. They have the breakdown. That's coming up in Beyond the Headlines. It starts right after this. That does it for us here at Eyewitness News. It's certainly been a pleasure having you in our company tonight. Once again, I'm Janae Noel. Have a great night, everyone, and be safe.
Still connected, still with you.
Coming up tonight, the government's agenda for the second half of its term is now official. The job now is to get to work. This morning, thousands poured onto Parliament Square and Bay Street to attend the opening of Parliament ceremony. Always a significant day in the Parliament and the nation. Coming up, we discuss some of what the government has planned to get, and also we get analysis on just how they plan to get it done. And it's what many of you watched online in our live coverage talked about and paid attention to, the fashions, who was a hit and those who didn't understand the assignment. This is Beyond the Headlines, brought to you by Alive. Good evening. I'm Shanique Miller. It's great to have you along this evening. Governor General, Her Excellency Cynthia Mother Pratt, delivered her first speech from the throne to a crowd of thousands this morning. She got passing grades all around. However, it was the content of the speech from the throne that most people paid attention to. It is the roadmap of where the Davis administration plans to take the economy, address crime, improve education, introduce a national service, also a national development plan, ease the misery index for tens of thousands of people, and ensure that when it all comes to employment, Bahamians are first. And that's not even half of the areas this government plans on bringing relief to or addressing. This evening, Communications Director in the Office of the Prime Minister, Latre Raming, joins me to discuss some of the areas Bahamians are most interested in seeing change in. Latre, hello to you, and been a long day.
Thanks so much.
Welcome to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you here.
Thanks so much.
I think something, I want to start with this. The public service reform and revitalization, something that's very important. We understand, of course, the public service has been in a quagmire. It didn't just start, it's decades old, but the effort and the aim is to bring relief there.
I think what is fundamental to the public service is you understand that the public sector is the instrument in which the government delivers, executes its policies. And I think the long-standing issues we have had is around human resources. So you have a lot of persons working in the public service who have not been promoted, advanced for years. Yeah. And that's in some instances have a systematic impact on persons who don't feel the drive to execute government policy. Mm-hmm. And so the government is trying to rewrite the ship. We're trying to ensure that persons who work hard is rewarded, trying to invest in training, and trying to ensure that our legislation and laws is adequate enough to understand where we are. And so in order for us to have a vibrant public service, we need to have the instruments and not only the benefits that will incentivize good work on behalf of the Bahamian people.
It's very important, we're going to all watch and see how that comes together because it's necessary that it does. Another focus, Latre, is on youth. Several areas, several key announcements made in that regard. Of course, it isn't new. A lot of it was announced at the start of the term in 2021, but certainly very interesting to see a renewed focus. The blue economy, the National Maritime and Training Bill, the National Apprenticeship Bill, the National Youth Commission Bill, a Junior Local Government Council in the Family Islands, and so much more. Let's talk about that focus.
So one of the things I want to also pivot to is that we said that we were laying the foundation for progress, or building on our progress and driving change. So if you look at the public sector reform, we're building on the work that PIA has already started in the public service. When you look at the development of our young people, the government launched for the first time our National Youth Guard, looking at ways to institutionalize national youth service into our legislation.
Which so many people applauded that one.
And particularly because we understand if we're going to invest in our national development, we need to prepare our young persons not only with the skills to respond to natural disasters, but ensure that they are literate in the sense of English and mathematics, so we can give them the skills and the tools they need to help move our country's national development forward. We also look at how do we institutionalize the Royal Bahamas Defense Force Rangers program. Right. So the first time by law, you institutionalize the organization as the youth arm of the Royal Bahamas Defense Force. Mm-hmm. Look at the apprenticeship program. We've had ongoing loan agreements with the IDB. Look at how do we strengthen young Bahamians, give them the on-the-job training. And so by legislation, we are now recommitting ourselves to ensure that this is enshrined in the way we do our national development. I think what is fundamental to the entire piece of the speech from the throne that most persons probably didn't realize is the government's commitment to the National Development Plan. As you are aware,
we highlighted that. That's key, because that is a piece of legislation that certainly is an effort that cannot stop with a particular administration. It has to be ongoing.
So one of the elephants in the room that we have not fundamentally addressed is the fact that the governments over the last several years have changed.
Right.
The electorate has not elected consistently any political party. And with that, there's a disruption in public policy, there's a disruption in public programs. And if we don't come to a consensus as to what policies we want around education, around our economy, around how we respond to the new threats of climate change, there's going to be inconsistencies. And with those inconsistencies, they're going to be delayed in programs. So there's going to be a rippling impact. So what we are seeking to do, regardless of the government changing, we have to find a way to grow a consensus, whether it's PLP, DNA, or whoever, to say this is the direction the country's heading in. And we're going to enshrine that in law, and this is a consensus.
Oh, so to enshrine it in law is how you're going to ensure this national development plan is observed and continues.
Respected, and also know, I think that we must be able to agree on basic fundamentals on how do we educate our people, how do we provide access to healthcare, and how do we build the infrastructure we need for the 21st century. And I think that if we don't put teeth to it, it will just be a book sitting on a shelf.
And it needs to be the involvement of everyone. Bright minds are the parties you mentioned, and the bright minds are everywhere to encourage and foster a progressive nation that we all move in the direction we all desire to move in.
I think, and the fundamental mistake we made, and I mean the government, the previous Christie administration made, was they didn't reach to the point of making it legislation. So I think we're going to move very quickly to put it into law, so people we have a fundamental blueprint on the direction of our country.
A focus that was also applauded, that is needed as well, is a focus on the elderly, many of whom live on a fixed, meager income. How do you plan to address that?
I think most societies are measured by the way they respond to the vulnerable communities, whether it be the elderly or the disabled. And we have to understand that in our approach to government, it has to be diversified. We have to make sure that our laws reflect where we are in the 21st century, that we understand that as the Bahamas is the 10th most expensive country to live in.
It is.
The way we respond, both our institution and our programs, must adjust to that reality, adjust to that fact. And so what the government is seeking to do is to improve the way we protect the vulnerable communities, ensure that there's the safety net, whether it's income, whether it is protection by law, it is enshrined, and it is being able to have a prudent approach to the way we look after those vulnerable communities.
Yes, absolutely. Something that is also quite key for the elderly and for everybody else, the cost of living. We saw Rupert Roberts mention and called a percentage which was 30%. Is extremely high, particularly when people are making the minimum wage or less, but that still is not enough.
So one of the things in the speech from the throne today, you would have noticed that there's a segment of the speech that focused particularly on energy. We realized that the driving costs for persons in their home and the driving costs for businesses is the amount of money they pay for PPL. We also realized as a government that it is much more, it is beyond the management of PPL, that we have an outdated energy infrastructure. So you would have seen a commitment by the government to transition the Bahamas or wean the Bahamas off fossil fuel into solar energy. So for the first time, the government is committing itself to a 100 megawatts plant in the province to reduce PPL load on fossil fuels. But what people have to also realize is the cost of getting fuel from the province to the family island. So what we've done is implemented a program along with the IDB to ensure that the most southern islands like Michael have renewable energy infrastructure to reduce the need for the cost of transportation of fuel to those islands. So we've committed ourselves to the infrastructure. We've committed ourselves to prudent management of PPL. We've committed ourselves to addressing the legacy debt of the corporation. And I think one of the things that we've seen that's immediately is the results of the new minister who's there now.
Okay, well, that is an area we'll be watching very closely. You know that for sure. Let's talk about food security. Again, a major issue, not only for obviously food security, but access to good quality food and ensuring that we are moving in the right direction to be able to feed ourselves, if only by 50%, to cut that import bill.
So the speech of the throne focused on three areas: personal security, economic security, national security. If you look at the issue of food security, all three of those issues are enshrined. If the inability to feed yourself as a country is a national security issue, the inability to feed yourself is an economic security issue, and it's a personal security issue. And so we recognize that we have to make substantial investments for our farmers, but also Parliament in itself must have legislation that protect industries, incentivize industries, and help farmers. Beyond the issue of food security, which was fundamental, I believe, was the bold commitment on the issue of crime. That the government is going to make progress on the anti-gang legislation to identify persons who are a part of the notorious perpetrators, and to expand the amount of judges in the Supreme Court. I mean, the justices in the Supreme Court, to ensure that we will make no excuse in the backlog of cases. We will give them the resources they need to succeed, and we will get these matters tried in a very prudent manner.
Immigration,
yes.
Latre, that's certainly another hot button issue, immigration. Announcements were made as well this morning on how the government plans on going to try and tackle it and get that, somehow bring it under control.
If you were watching the responses of the audience was loud on immigration and crime.
Yeah,
so what it says to us is that we understand, we appreciate that this is an issue that concerns Bahamians. The Prime Minister was very clear that the Bahamas do not have the resources to take on irregular migrants. We do know that we need to improve the issue of immigration insofar as the Department of Immigration, the laws, and the resources to enforce those laws. As you are aware, the government has already committed to a review process of the Department of Immigration, and we are doing that in conjunction with the University of the Bahamas Public Policy Institute. And so we're making progress on those issues to ensure that the commitment by the Prime Minister to review the Department of Immigration, so that the Bahamian people have a department that is efficient and is credible and an institution that they believe in.
And protects the sovereignty of this
our
nation.
country.
Yeah, really very important. Any final comments you want to say? I mean, that was a whole lot, this speech. It was a short enough speech, but it really had a whole lot in it. I wanted to just highlight several areas.
I think what is fundamental for us is that our blueprint for change is a social contract. This is the social contract in which we govern. The speech from the throne is aligned with the Prime Minister's overall priorities. We understand that real big progress takes time. We also understand that these are very trying times for Bahamian people. This government makes no excuses. We are prepared to get to work and deliver on the promises of the Blueprint for Change and the New Day administration.
And you can get all of this done. And this is just a quarter of what was mentioned today. You can get this done.
I think the most significant thing right now is to bring down the cost of energy.
Yeah, right. Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Latre Raming, Office of the Prime Minister, Communications Director. Thank you for being here with us this evening on Beyond the Headlines. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, we are going to look further into the government's agenda moving forward as of today. In fact, we're going to begin with the school breakfast program. It's a program that many administrations have attempted before and kind of just dropped it. We'll see how this administration plans on keeping up. Stay exactly where you are. Beyond the Headlines is back after this. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines, brought to you by Alive. The 2023 Parliament session promises change comprehensively. There's a focus on the economy and economic recovery, social development, and environmental sustainability. Key issues such as job creation, healthcare reform, climate resilience, education reform, a national breakfast program to ensure that students in need of a hot meal have the opportunity to do so. And so we're going to analyze some of the government or some of what's on the agenda, a very ambitious agenda, with former cabinet minister and party leader, Granville McCartney. Good evening to you and welcome to Beyond the Headlines. It's good to have you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Did you watch any of it? Your overall thoughts on the speech?
All speeches from the throne sounds good.
Yeah, they are.
The reality is whether or not they could be put into reality. There's a lot that went into it. This government has 2.5 more years to do what they said they're going to do. And the question is whether or not that will happen. Mm-hmm. My thought on it was, look, take the man on the street. How do you feel, how did you feel prior to hearing the speech from the throne? And how do you feel
that will be,
after,
yeah, that's
right?
Quite interesting.
That
yes.
is, and the question is, did it bring hope? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel? I don't know. I don't think so.
Certainly
there's a lot of things. Sorry, there's a lot of things have been said.
Yeah,
but
right.
at the end of the day, whether or not it could come to fruition is a whole different story.
Well, that certainly remains to be seen because it's so much. I mean, it's a very comprehensive plan that was put forward. Let's start, for example, with the school breakfast program. Excellent, totally needed,
Absolutely.
really needed. In fact, Latre said as he left before we came back from the break that the Prime Minister himself has been going in and giving out hot meals as well at schools. But this is not the first administration to attempt that.
Right.
And they each have it's fallen by the wayside.
Fizzled out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
How do you suppose they can keep this up?
I don't know. The question of this program is sustainability, whether or not that can happen. And it sounds good at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Whether or not it continues throughout is a whole different story. Mm-hmm. You would want them to do it. Mm-hmm. Whether they do it is a whole different story. I don't know. I don't know how they'll be able to do it. Hopefully they would.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we've seen previously that a program like that is very hard to sustain. Something
that's certainly close to your, I won't say heart, but certainly something that you're passionate about, pay attention to. You served in the Ministry of Immigration. And so another announcement is that the Bahamas is going to introduce measures to sustain the overwhelming numbers of persons coming into the country illegally. The government will introduce an amendment to the Immigration Act, and regulation will be introduced to obviously, regulate and bring regulation to the detention center. What do you suppose all of that looks like, the detention center and also an amendment to the Immigration Act?
Well, I'm curious to find out what amendments to the Immigration Act is going to be. They didn't say it. They didn't say what the amendments are. But these things have been said before over the last few speeches from the throne. They speak about immigration and protecting our borders. They speak about education and enhancing our educational system. They speak about healthcare. They speak about the building the economy, diversifying the economy. Mm-hmm. And what happens? We end up in the same position. As a matter of fact, after 50 years, we are no better off. Like I said at the beginning, the speech from the throne always sounds good. But it's whether or not the administration of the day can put it into effect.
Can get it done.
2.5 years, very ambitious, I don't know. The problem is, and the problem we have in this country, is the cost of living, cost of doing business in this country. Yeah. People are feeling it in their pockets.
That too,
we are hurting.
Yeah, that
right?
too was brought up because we can discuss both, but the cost of doing business or the ease of doing business was also addressed, and measures that the government will introduce in this second half of its term to bring about ease in doing business. Do you think that can happen? I'm not quite sure why it's so difficult to actually start a business, keep it going, and all the rest of it in this country.
It's very difficult to even try and start a business today. And keep it going, to keep the doors open is very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You would like for the government to implement policies that will make doing business in the Bahamas easy, right? Locally and for international investors. But all of these things have been said before. So it doesn't really inspire you at the end of the day to have hope.
So you're saying where's the hope?
Where's the hope?
Well, I'll tell you somewhere you can have hope, because this has been promised before, but you see it happening. The revitalization of downtown. We see lots being cleared down, and it's looking rather nice, quite frankly, with all the eyesores being torn down, one structure after the next. That too was talked about, this sort of renaissance of downtown, the revitalization of downtown. How would you sort of respond to that? The fact that you see it's happening, and the government's plan to bring about this wonderful mecca in the city of Nassau?
I think it's excellent. You see the work being done. They speak about forming a management committee or authority for downtown. I think that's necessary. I would hope and trust that they move in that direction. I think it's an excellent idea. I think by having a downtown management authority, you know, would move that project in the right direction.
How do you think it'll further enhance tourist arrivals and tourist spending and visitors coming off of cruise ships and wanting to be engaged in the city of Nassau once again?
We need it. I mean, we certainly need it, and I think it's a good initiative, and it's something really, hopefully to look forward to. And I hope that the government moves with it. Like you said, they've started.
They've started.
And you've seen it. So you've seen that initiative in action. So hopefully they'll move in that direction. I think it's very
absolutely
good
agree.
It's very necessary.
And a time that's so overdue. So
Absolutely.
It's good to see
it's
it happening.
Talked about for many years.
For quite a number of years.
And you know, I give kudos to the government in that regard.
Another area that's being focused in on is I guess they call it a renaissance of Family Island airports. That seems to be something that really they're making headway in. We see the airport, for example, in North Eleuthera. There's talk of getting that not only just, I guess, renovated, but perhaps a new structure, and several other islands as well. Your thoughts about that and how that will impact Family Island communities?
That's necessary. There has been talk. Again, it's whether or not it can be put into reality. We hope that happens. It is necessary. It's necessary for our tourist industry. And, well, you've said it over and over before regarding the airport in Eleuthera. There's a need for it.
There's a need.
So most definitely that is something that must happen. Whether it happens, it's a huge undertaking. Huge undertaking. I had the good fortune in 2007 to be responsible for aviation when I was in tourism, and I had the good fortune to go to all the airports, and from back then they were in need. So hopefully this government would make some progress in that regard.
Yeah, it'll certainly be very welcomed.
Yeah.
Let us look at this just misery in the country. Attempted suicides, I think there's been several in the last week and a half, and I want to speak obviously to a mental health professional on that, but let's just talk about this misery index. You heard Latre and the speech from the throne talked about easing the burden on people, addressing the high cost of living and all the other utilities that are out of control, etc. What real steps you think need to be taken to ease, and not even just ease, remove that misery index that so many people seem to be burdened by?
Money, everything is too expensive in this country. You know, when you hit their wallets, when people can't put food on their table, can't pay their rent or pay their mortgage, when they, at the end of the day, can't pay the school fees, you get miserable.
Yeah.
Right? You get miserable. So the government must focus. They must focus on reducing the cost of living in this country. You know, I see where they speak about LNG, and the reality is that's not going to happen overnight.
So that's a process.
That's a process. I don't know if that's a process within the next 2.5 years.
When I heard it, I'm like, Leslie Miller certainly would be very happy for this and welcome it.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm looking forward to hearing his response. But you're saying that's not a quick fix.
No, it's not a quick fix. That's not a quick fix. You know, you got to get started.
Yeah.
You know, that's the start. You have to get started. But the reality is, it's not a quick fix. But they need to address it, need to get started, bring this cost of living down, food prices, gas prices, electricity. Why are people miserable? I'm miserable.
You're miserable.
I'm miserable.
Why, Brian?
I'm miserable.
What makes you miserable?
Things are too expensive for this country. It's unattainable for the average person, right? And that's why you have people, when you can't do things for your children, when you can't pay your rent, buy food, you know? Yeah. I mean,
and what's unfortunate about it, and health and wellness was mentioned as well.
Yeah.
So what's unfortunate, Rupert Roberts, when he recently talked about the 30% inflation rate in the cost of living, he talked about people now resorting to just buying the most unhealthy offerings in the food store. That certainly just adds to it because it doesn't help.
That's right.
Yeah, quite
unfortunate. It doesn't help. It causes, of course, health issues. And, you know, again, I really would like to see this government deal with the cost of living because that will help with the misery index in this country.
Yeah, it really it needs to be focused in on, absolutely. What I like as well was the focus on the elderly. I'm looking forward to seeing how they actually flesh that out, how they introduce it, how they ease the burden there, because many of them live on fixed income, marginal, and it is just interesting to see how they make it work every month. And so to bring relief there, that also is something that's welcomed, and we look forward to seeing how it happens. Huh?
Yeah. Well, we'll see. How they do it is the question. You know, it's good to talk about it. It's good to have the ideas and say this is what we're going to do, but it'll be more interesting to see how it works and hopefully put into action.
Yeah, absolutely. And so what are you most hopeful for in terms of, and it was a lot. We just covered, a ton. I was surprised of how ambitious it is for the second half of the term. But what are you most hopeful for to seeing happen?
Well, I tell you, they speak about the National Youth Program, which I think it is necessary. It was something I spoke about many years ago, and I think Sir Lyndon Pindling initially spoke about it.
The National Service. He did.
It should have been implemented back then. I think I'm looking forward to seeing how that works. And hopefully, you know, that will help our young people, especially our young men, those who are not working, from an educational point of view and from a discipline point of view.
Absolutely. The Royal Bahamas Defence Force Cadet Program,
Yes, absolutely. So, and there's also the National Development legislation.
And that's needed, and
that is needed. You know, every country ought to have some direction as to where we are going, right? It doesn't matter what political party you're in. They ought to have some direction. Now, I remember, I think it was Prime Minister Christie who initiated this, and it just went by the wayside. I think the government is doing a good thing by legislating it, making it law, so that no matter who is in government, it continues, right? And of course, it has to be in a position where there's wiggle room to amend, to adjust based on the times. But by putting it into legislation, I think that's a good thing so that it is continuous, no matter which administration is in government. So I think having a national development plan is essential. I think
and long overdue.
Long overdue. I mean, I remember when it was first introduced, I was at some of the meetings and I was very excited about it, but it, you know, unfortunately fizzled out. I think that all stakeholders ought to be involved in that, notwithstanding your political affiliation. All the bright minds of this country, from all sectors of society, must be involved in that, in helping to develop our plan in moving forward and moving this country forward.
I absolutely agree, because at the time, I do recall so many people from different spheres, I mean, were so excited.
Yeah.
They were highly excited about it,
right.
and obviously thought that it is needed for the country, and was at the time as well, and it is something that can help move the country in the right direction.
Absolutely.
The desired direction, and so that, you're right, it's a wonderful initiative.
Yeah.
Well, listen, I thank you very much for sticking around and hanging out with us here on Beyond the Headlines this evening. Good to see you, and look forward to another conversation.
Well, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. You as well. Don't go anywhere, because when we come back, you all, now this you have to stay tuned for this one, because you all were paying very close attention to who wore what, how they wore it, how they looked, the colors they wore, all the rest of that. I'm not going to be, I ain't talking. The experts are in the room, and they will come and share their views after this break. This is Beyond the Headlines, brought to you by Alive. Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. And so while the speech from the throne is the main focus, of course, of this morning's opening of Parliament, a close second was the fashion show that is a part of the pomp and pageantry of this historic event. And it happens every time, every 5 years, and so it's not new to this year. Many of the spouses of parliamentarians and other women in attendance made quite the impression. Of course, many of the men were also quite dashing. And so we're going to look at this story first by Tyler Simonet, and then we're going to come back and talk about it.
Greens, pinks, purples, and all shades of blue, the best in Bahamian fashion on full display for today's opening of Parliament. From the spouse of the Prime Minister, cabinet ministers, their wives, and sitting MPs, no detail was spared as the more than 200 guests were dressed to the nines. They donned impressive gowns, headpieces, bags, and gloves for the special occasion.
Today, I dress in this aqua and gold because it represents the Bahamas, and it's near the Bahamian colors. So I'm enjoying myself. And I'm happy that we as ladies could be out here just to show off for a few hours and enjoy not working, and to be here and enjoy the speech from the throne.
The PLP is the governing party, and these are our colors, the yellow and blue. And what I did was try and contrast them, the yellow and the gold, and that's my outfit for today.
Well, my outfit was made by Avis Monroe, and she's one of our local designers in the country. And my bag was made actually by a teacher, Keisha Miller.
While the attire was the talk of the morning, many attendees also expressing their joy at women empowerment being able to witness the Governor General Cynthia Mother Pratt speech from the throne.
I'm out here today to really support Mother Pratt. I'm a product of Coconut Grove, yes. I know true Mother Pratt, we live through the same corner. And I am so happy and so proud to know that something good has come out of the Grove. And that's why I'm here today, to support that great woman, our Governor General today.
Our focus has been on women, uplifting women and showcasing them. And even if you look at the work that our 6 parliamentarian women are doing, they are phenomenal. And it's very good that it inspires more women that they can elevate to where they are.
Bahamas Union of Teachers President Belinda Wilson also added her support for Pratt, who she says directly impacted her life.
To hear Cynthia Mother Pratt, Her Excellency, who is a person who has contributed to my life. So I've played softball with her from I was 12 years old. I received my full softball scholarship from her to go to St. Augustine's College, Raleigh, North Carolina. So it's personal to me today, and I'm glad that I'm here to support her.
The Governor General's sister-in-law, Patricia Moxie, also speaking on the occasion, and the family's support for Pratt on this historic moment.
Oh man, look here, the feeling is indescribable. I started to cry, my heart got full. Her husband Joe is in here, my brother Edmondo Moxie. Her brother is not here, and he would have been like a peacock. They both would have been like a peacock, but we all are proud. The whole family is proud of her. Her brother is here, Charles Moxie. Her daughter is here, Nikki. We all are here, and we love her. And we just say to God be the glory. Continue to pray for her, that God would keep her strong.
Tyler Simonet, Eyewitness News.
Well, we're going to pick up on the discussion, the analysis, the whole fashion critique and all the rest of it with Latoya Moxie. Latoya, of course, heads a public relations firm, and also Serena Williams. Also, well, you ladies have a lot in common, I see. Also heads a public relations firm, but they have a keen eye for fashion. Ladies, good evening to both of you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It was so wonderful seeing those women in Tyler's story pay tribute to the Governor General, Her Excellency Cynthia Pratt. I remember Belinda when she was speaking, and she looked lovely in that floral light colored dress. and the fact that she was very instrumental in so many people advancing and getting ahead, and they do share that certainly in common. But let's just go, and I want to hear what you ladies are thinking, who you paid attention to, who you watched, and who stood out to you.
Well, I did watch this morning, and I've been watching the openings for years, and I can say that there are some people that were definitely eye-catching. There were some people that the shock element was there. It's safe to say. I think what I love about us as a people, we're very festive. Our culture is rooted in all things unique. We march to the beat of our own drum, and we saw a lot of that today on display. We saw a lot of colors. We saw pops of blue everywhere. Anything that was the color that stood out most. But the blue. There were lots of blues. There were. I think we had the leader of the opposition's wife. She was wearing powder blue. Yeah, it was really lovely. Yes, we had Jomo Campbell's wife wearing a shade of blue. She's wearing teal. We also had Senator Michael Alkidis' wife. She was wearing a blue palette. So there were lots of blues, navies, powder blue, light blue. It was blue everywhere. So I guess there's something in the color, and it was resonating and showcasing today. But the person that stood out to me, and I don't have favorites, but I have to say the person that stood out to me the most would have been Leslie Miller Bryce. I think she knocked it out the park. Yeah. The last time she was at the last opening, she was wearing, I think it was a gray, it was a black with gray metallic stripes, and it was designed by April Jasmine. And she got it right the last time, and so of course she went back with April Jasmine, and so of course they elevated up a notch. And I think if I had to choose my top three, I would say Leslie definitely was the winner. Well, we're
gonna hear the other two in a minute. But Serena, your thoughts and which look stood out to you?
Actually, I agree. Definitely Leslie Miller. I thought she was exceptional. When I first saw it, I thought, oh my goodness, all black. That's maybe not do right. But I think the sparkles that she had, and the fact that her hat, the brim was transparent, and of course she's tall and she's statuesque and elegant, and so she certainly carried it off very well. She looked very elegant.
Which other female member of parliament maybe also got it right?
What do you think, Latoya?
Well, I think, and in no particular order, like I said, I paid attention. I've been watching them for years, and this is kind of what I do, what I like to pay attention to. And I would say Pia Glover-Roll. She also was very elegant. The last time she appeared at the opening, she wore a baby blue. It was a tight at the waist, almost ball gown, like silhouette, right? And I think she decided to go a more subtle route, but it was still very stately and elegant with her new role. I think it was very appropriate. And her outfit was designed by a local designer, Theodore Elliott. And what I love is a lot of these women are using our Bahamian designers. And we're accustomed to not knowing who's dressing, who's wearing who. And so it's good to see that a lot of our Bahamian designers were on display. And in my eyes, and not because she's a Moxie, but Ginger Moxie can do no wrong. She can do no wrong. She can do no wrong. I don't know. There's something about the ladies in Grand Bahama. They just know what they're doing. They just know what they're doing. And Ginger brought it very, not understated, not over the top. She just got it right. And those are the three persons that really stood out to me. All the other ladies were beautiful. Maxine Seymour, who was never really one to overshine or overdo it, but she actually did a custom piece by April Jasmine, and she looked amazing as well, wearing black and royal blue. She stood out very, very, very much to me.
Seymour, and so it's good to hear you highlighted one of the senators. Certainly, of course, I think in terms of the let's say the wives then. So who stood out to you? We saw the wife of the Prime Minister in a green. I said it was a forest green. I was corrected. So you take it away and go there. You and Serena.
I like that a lot too. If it wasn't forest green, which green was it? Emerald green?
Yeah, it was emerald green.
Emerald green.
It was emerald green.
I thought it was lovely, and I like the fact that she had an A-line, you know, and it was sort of mid calf length. I thought it looked very elegant, and I liked the frivolity at the end, the little bobbles she had on the back. I thought that was very cute, and of course her traditional Bahamian made handbag.
And the nice hat, everything was very complimenting. the wonderful pearl earring and nothing else, so that the dress kind of stood on its own.
Now, mind you, I think that it could be very tricky after a particular age wearing rosettes. You know, that's kind of like it could be a fashion snafu, like if you don't understand, like if you don't know what you're doing. And I think
what
David,
do you mean by a rosette?
The little rosette bubbles that were on her dress, the emerald dress. It could be very tricky because it's usually a sign of more of a youthful type of fashion style,
like a little girl,
for
like
little girls, exactly.
Girl.
So it's a very tricky thing to do, and I think she did it good.
Was it balanced nicely then?
She did it good. Okay. She wore emerald green, and it was accented with apple green in her hat and her bag, which was a Harl Taylor bag. And I was told by the designer that made her her outfit or put together her entire ensemble that the Harl Taylor bag was the inspiration. So her whole dress was put together because of her love for that particular custom Harl Taylor bag. And her outfit was designed by David Roll. He did a really, really good job. I've seen Mrs. Davis on many carpets, many openings, whether it's in person or on television. And for me, personally, I would say that this is the best I've seen her. And I've appreciated the style. Just watching her walk down Bay Street, I mean, it was just elegant, it was classic, and it was stately. I just enjoyed it. The flow of the gown, her confidence walking in it.
She immediately got your attention.
She did.
When the cameras went on them walking up Bay Street.
But she's never made a mistake.
No,
never. She's always elegant.
Never.
It's never overstated. It's never too flamboyant. I think she always gets it right.
You always got to have a favorite. And today was my favorite of hers. I've seen her dressed elegantly a lot of times. I don't know, maybe because green's my favorite color.
She's not worn that color before. That was a departure, the whole shape of that dress. Because usually she likes a sheath. So that was new for her. But she looked very happy with it. She looked very free and easily walked the street, as you said, nothing to restrain her.
And she paid attention to, just like our former Prime Minister, Dr. Minnis's wife, Patricia Minnis, they paid attention to the seasonality as well. And we rarely do that. Again, because we march to the beat of our own drum, it's Easter for us all year, all year round for the most part. You know, we pull out all the stops and all the colors, but I was happy to see, I wanted to feel
Patricia Minnis did something
she did burnt orange.
Looked like an orange sort of.
It was burnt orange and it was nice. And a lot of Bahamian women love the idea of color blocking. But what I loved to see at the opening today was a lot of monochromatic tones, and they were done right. She did burnt orange from head to toe, and it worked. It was just, it was flawless. It was flawless.
Agree. Now, did any of the men stand out to you all? I mean, of course, you're saying, oh, they're just wearing a suit, but some were wearing morning suits, some were traditional suits, some were light-colored suits.
What today is a morning suit for a gentleman?
That's the $1 million question.
Well, it is. I don't know if they understand, but I'll tell you this: Parliament moved away, sort of loosened that rule a little bit, perhaps around maybe 2017, but around there a bit.
Yeah. So, well, Alfred Sears looked good in his, and I think there are a few others. Went there, so about 6, I think you counted.
Yeah, you had the ones that stood out to me. In no particular order, I would say Chester Cooper. He definitely, our Deputy Prime Minister, Chester Cooper, he got it right. Yeah. He definitely got it right. I think one of the things we have to pay attention to when men are wearing suits and they're on display or presentation is the tailoring. And sometimes suits are very ill-fitting. You know, we expect women to always have it together, everything must be in place, and then we forget that the men have to put it together as well. And I think he did a stellar job. Whoever curated his ensemble did a good job. The tailoring, the legs, the fit by the leg was nice. The fit at the cut at the waist was nice. The ascot was nice. Then you also had Wayne Monroe, who also wore.
Yeah, he looked great.
He wore tails as well. And I think it's like you said, Shanique, it's a departure. That we're moving away from tradition, but it's refreshing to see that some people
are holding on to that tradition.
Exactly. It's nice. This is what we look forward to. We have a British background. This is part of our culture as well. So to see some men show up in that was refreshing to see. But I also liked, I guess I compared the men standing next to the women.
Yeah.
It was just easy to do it that way. I think Dr. Minnis looked very handsome and dapper in the blue suit that he chose, standing next to the burnt orange. It was an amazing compliment.
Oh, so you were looking at the color coordinations as well.
I was. Okay. And Mikhail Barnaby, along with his wife Lena Barnaby, they had shades of blue going on as well, and I thought that was lovely. She was styled by Paris Williams, who's an up-and-coming stylist here in Nassau. But those were the men that stuck out to me. I'm trying to remember if I'm missing anyone in particular. I would say the leader of the opposition, he also complimented his wife in her powder blue dress very well. So the men did come out. Yeah. Some of them, I think they could come back again, but
some of them didn't get the assignment.
They didn't understand it. They didn't understand the assignment. But you know, it's not everybody's going to be fashionistas. Not everybody's going to be there for the for the style aspect of it. But ever since I was a little girl, this is something that I watched and I look forward to. We sat around the table or the kitchen counter or wherever in our living rooms and we watched it. And it started from as far back as Dame Marguerite. And
well, let's just talk about her because I want to talk about the now Governor General's attire today.
Yes.
And many people thought that she looked quite lovely. Of course, following the last female to sit in the chair, Dame Marguerite. Let's just talk about Governor General Cynthia Pratt's look today.
Well, I think she got it completely right. She didn't put a step wrong all day. I mean, she was relaxed, gracious. She looked lovely. I liked her hair, just that bun at the back. And I thought her outfit was lovely. And the dress especially I thought was nice, especially when they did close up and you could see the sparkles on it. And I liked the style of it. And she was definitely comfortable in it.
Simple and flowing, huh?
Yes, I thought it was very nice. And I thought she was very regal and very queen-like and very stately. I think she's got into her role extremely well.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say for her, I've watched her journey as she transitioned into this Governor General role. And over the years, her style has definitely evolved. And I have to say, I'd be remiss if I don't pay homage to someone who's really near and dear to me, who actually put her styles together, who's been putting them together for months. The incomparable Mitzi Turnquest. She is the person who is responsible for curating the ensemble of the Governor General, and she looked classy, she looked amazing, she looked elegant. And I think a lot of people try to compare Governor Generals, females.
No,
and I have to say, there's no comparison. There's apples to oranges, you know. Dame Marguerite has an understated elegance, and I would say that our new Governor General has a Bahamian glamour, a flair about her that's all her own. And I was happy to see that. Like, she's literally curating her own aesthetic, and it's working for her. Whatever she's doing, and I'm hoping that it continues. It's just beautiful. It makes me want to continue to see more and more and more. And she's beautiful.
No, it certainly is all, the look is all hers, and she really looked well. She presented well, and she looked well this afternoon.
She did.
And this morning as well. Ladies, I thank you. A very nice fashion commentating. I like it. I must call on you all more often. But thank you so much, Latoya, Moxie. Thank you very much, Serena Williams. Really enjoyed hearing your analysis on today's fashions. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to us all day long, right up to now. We certainly enjoyed having you along. We look forward to seeing you right back here tomorrow evening. For the entire Beyond the Headlines team, I'm Shanique Miller. Make it a great evening.